In today's video we are going to compare the Lenovo Yoga Slim 7 and Slim 7i to the Huawei MateBook 14. These are some of the best laptop offerings in the 14-inch category, and I've been spending a lot of time with both of them. So I have a really good idea about what are the good things, the bad things, and which one I would pick when I get the choice. I'm W2Best, I make in-depth gear reviews and tutorials, and if you like this kind of video after watching it, I would be super happy if you want to put a like on the video, and if you want to communicate with me, you can find me either in the comment section below or on Instagram, where I'm also at W2Best. If you want to buy any of the products that I mentioned in this review, you can find them in the description below. Both of these laptops are incredibly good. I have thoroughly enjoyed using them for the time I've used each of the devices. And the Lenovo Yoga Slim 7 I've used for roughly 7 months in total. And the Huawei MateBook 14 I've used now for about 3 months in total. The specifications I have are in the Lenovo Yoga Slim 7, the 4500U version with 16GB of RAM. The Slim 7i I have with the i5-1135G7 and also with 16GB of RAM. In the Huawei MateBook 14 I have the 4600H CPU from AMD together with 16GB of RAM. We will cover specs more in depth in each of the sections in this video, and there will be very thorough chapter marks down in the description or here in the progress bar, so you can select what part of the video you want to see. I paid 900 euros for my Yoga Slim 7 and 900 for my Slim 7i. I paid 1000 euros for my MateBook 14. So the MateBook here is a little bit more expensive, but this also depends which configuration you get and if you can get it at a decent sale price, which is possible sometimes. Here we have the laptops side by side placed on my table. And as you can see right away, they look pretty similar when you lay them out side by side like this. And they definitely do have some main similarities. First of all, they both have very good quality feel. When you pick them up, you can really feel these are high quality devices. They are all metal and they have not exactly as good quality as the MacBook Pros, but they are not far from them. They also have a pretty similar weight. They both have USB-C charging. They have great speakers, great displays and great keyboards. The main use cases that I have for my laptops is using it in the office, where I plug it into my 25-inch Dell monitor and also daisy chain to a 24-inch vertical monitor. Then I also use it a lot out on town when I go to different cafes, and normally I would use it for traveling, but this is not the case right now. I do a combination of productivity work and some video editing and then an occasional gaming session in the evening, but that's not a very major use for my computers. As you can see on the top here, we don't have extreme branding, but it is definitely there. We have the Yoga branding on the top there, together with the Lenovo brand there. And we have the big Huawei logo right there. None of this branding is lit up though, so it is relatively discreet, I have to say. In the bottom side, we can see they both have some pretty large ventilation grills, and they have 2 fans. So you have one fan, and you have one fan on each side there on the MateBook 14 as well. Except this, you can see the speaker grills on the bottom of the MateBook 14, which are not present on the Yoga Slim 7 because the speakers are on the front. The MateBook 14 weighs in at 1460 grams. Together with its very compact 65-watt charger that is included in the box, it weighs in at 1658 grams. This charger is one of the smallest 65-watt chargers I have seen, and it comes with a separate USB-C to USB-C cable, which is really good to see and make this a very versatile charging solution that will be great when it is possible to travel again. The Yoga Slim 7 weighs in at 1351 grams. Together with its larger power brick with more cables, it weighs in at 1673 grams. This power brick though is very good because it has a long enough cable to use it in pretty much any place that you might want to use it at. It is still pretty small and lightweight, but if you really want to go as lightweight as possible, you can't go wrong with that MateBook 14 65-watt charger. For comparison purposes, here are the chargers side by side, and just so that you know, you can still use this kind of charger with the Yoga Slim 7 and this kind of charger with the MateBook 14, and I often interchange. I usually have this guy plugged in at home in my kitchen, and this guy I have packed in my backpack because the longer cable is really nice to have, for example when you're in a cafe and need a bit of reach to get to the power plug. Let's have a closer look at the port setup here. In the Lenovo Yoga Slim 7 on top, you've got a USB-C port. On the 7i version, this is a Thunderbolt port. Then you have an HDMI port and another USB-C port. That again is a Thunderbolt port on the 7i version. And then you have a headphone microphone combo jack. On the MateBook 14, you've got a USB-C port. This guy is good for DisplayPort out, charging, and data transfer. You've got a headphone microphone combo jack and an HDMI port. Flipping over to the other side, on the Yoga Slim 7, we have a microSD card reader and then 2 USB-A ports. On the MateBook 14, we've got 2 USB-A ports. Then after that, we've also got the power button here on the Yoga Slim 7. And in both my Yoga Slim 7 and Slim 7i, the power button comes without a fingerprint reader built into it. Let's see if we can open these laptops with one hand. We start with the Yoga Slim 7, and that is no problem at all. We continue with the MateBook 14, and this is really not possible. The MateBook 14 has a really stiff hinge, so you need to open it up, get your finger in there, and then hold it down while you open laptop up. It is a pretty big difference. As you can see there, the Yoga Slim 7 has this feature where it starts up automatically and then recognizes my face over Windows Hello and logs in automatically. That process happens even when you don't turn the laptop on, but just sit down in front of it if you've been away from it for a while. The MateBook 14 doesn't have this feature, so to start it up, we need to press the power button, but if we make sure to press the power button for about half a second and then let go of our finger, then it's gonna recognize the fingerprint and log us straight into Windows when we reach that state. However, this feature is not flawless, and as you could see now, it didn't recognize my fingerprint, even though I was touching it for quite a bit. So I'm gonna try a little bit again, and there it recognized my fingerprint and I get into Windows. When getting in here, we can see the difference between the screens of the laptops. And this is a major difference between the two devices. Here in MateBook 14, we have a 3:2 aspect ratio screen that is Quad HD resolution. It is a glossy display and it covers about 100% sRGB color gamut. Then here in the Yoga Slim 7 we have a 16:9 aspect ratio display. This is a full HD display, so it's a lot less pixels in this device. It is a matte screen, and this is also about 100% of sRGB color gamut. Both screens have a brightness of about 400 nits, and that is a little bit different when you are on a glossy screen compared to a matte screen. But in all my use cases I have had during the months of using it, I found that this brightness is very much enough in both of these devices. Both these machines have a little bit of backlight bleed on the top and on the bottom. I don't find it very disturbing, and even when I turn the lights down to about this level, I still don't make out a lot of that backlight bleed. So there is a bit of backlight bleed in both units, but it is not terrible. If you're not familiar with the different aspect ratios, the 3:2 aspect ratio has a bit of a taller screen, which, as you can see here when I play back this video, gives a bit more black parts in the top and in the bottom of the video. Whereas in this case, the video fills out all of the bottom and top. And this means that there is a bit more space available in the 3:2 version. And this is great for office applications where you, for example, get some more lines of code, more lines of Excel sheets, or more words and lines in a Word document. So I really appreciate this for my everyday office tasks. I gotta say though, the screen challenge here is a true win for the MateBook 14. It has the better resolution, it has the better aspect ratio, and for me, even though it is glossy, it is more comfortable to use in most use cases. It is bright enough to use in bright conditions, even in direct sunlight. Although if you have direct sunlight and sit a little bit away from the monitor to the side, then you're gonna have some troubles. But you can work around that, and I have truly appreciated using the monitor of the MateBook 14. As you can see in the videos here, the screen colors come out very differently. This is because I switched the settings to make the MateBook 14 screen a little bit warmer in its colors, because I thought it looked kind of washed out when it was in its standard configuration. In these units there is a bit of coil whine, and I'm gonna double check it right now to see how much I can hear from it. You can hear a tiny bit of things going on in there in the MateBook 14, but it is really not bad right now. This is my AMD version of the Yoga Slim 7, and this guy has a lot of coil whine. You can hear it even when you sit at a distance like I do now. This is not the same on all different units though, so you just have to double check that the unit that you get is relatively free from coil whine. Let's take a look at the keyboard and trackpad setup. As you can see here, we have a backlit keyboard on both of the devices. We have more space for the trackpad on the MateBook 14 compared to the Yoga Slim 7. This is simply because of the 3:2 aspect ratio, giving the laptop a bit more space in this direction and therefore allowing them to put in a bigger trackpad. The Yoga Slim 7 trackpad could have filled out a little bit more of this space, but there is not a lot to take from there. I find the keyboards on both devices to be very good. However, I think the backlight of the MateBook 14 is a lot better. The first level is very subtle backlight. The second level is a bit more, but not too much. In comparison with the Yoga Slim 7, I feel like flip it on and it's already too strong in the lowest level. You then raise it and it is incredibly bright. If this was in a dark room, it would be way too bright for my eyes to have this kind of brightness level on, and that goes even for the lower setting. So I normally don't have the brightness turned on if I'm in a darker setting on the Yoga Slim 7, and this is not a problem at all in the MateBook 14. The keyboards are both really good, but they are also quite different to each other. In the MateBook 14, the keys are a bit closer to each other, have a bit less travel, and definitely less of that tactile feel when you click down. Like, they're a bit louder clicks in the Yoga Slim 7 compared to these very silent switches on the MateBook 14. However, I think it's super comfortable to type on this keyboard, and it reminds me a lot of the new MacBook keyboards, the one that come after the butterfly switches. The keyboard on the Yoga Slim 7 is also very comfortable to type on, although I sometimes find that the keys are a little bit too separated from each other. I am not as fast to type on the Yoga Slim 7 keyboard as I am on the MateBook 14. So if I have to pick a winner here, it will be the MateBook 14 keyboard. Moving down to the trackpads, here is another very close competition. The trackpad on the MateBook 14 is obviously bigger, but the trackpad here works really well as well. I think that the trackpads are pretty much as equal as they can get, except when it comes to the size. I don't have a preference, to be honest, about the size. I think the larger size sometimes is pretty nice to have, but also that when I'm typing I sometimes get onto the trackpad and that palm rejection feature is not working perfectly. This hasn't been a huge issue, but the few times it has been a problem, it has been a bit of an annoyance. This does not happen when you are typing on the Yoga Slim 7, and therefore I think it is pretty much a tie between the two machines. There is a bit of keyboard flex in both of the units, however it's really not bad and not something that is disturbing at daily use. There is a little bit of flex in the trackpad in the Yoga Slim 7, but really not a lot of flex in the trackpad in the MateBook 14. It's not a disturbing amount of flex in the Yoga, it is just when you click down on the left or the right side that sometimes I think the trackpad is flexing a little bit too much compared to what I want it to be. I am most often using my laptop together with an external mouse, so this is usually not something that bothers me a lot. In the MateBook 14 there is a fingerprint reader built into the power button. This one works relatively well, it logs you in automatically with Windows Hello, but I find that it doesn't work perfectly and is definitely not snappy enough as I would like it to be, and for example the way you expect a phone to work. You can't just tap it like that and be logged in. It will usually require a bit more of a longer tap to be able to log you in. My version of the Yoga Slim 7 and Slim 7i doesn't have a fingerprint reader. However, I know that there are versions available where there is a fingerprint reader in the power button. So if you need that and you want the Yoga Slim 7, make sure to check that you get one that has that in the power button. This is the camera and mic setups of the Yoga Slim 7 with the AMD CPU and the MateBook 14 with the AMD CPU. As you can see here, the Yoga camera is placed on top of the screen, so you can adjust the camera the way that you want it to be. In the MateBook 14, you've got the screen in the keyboard. It is popping up through the keyboard there. And this makes it so that you see the fingers if you are typing on the keyboard. You see the face from a bit of a downwards to upwards angle, which is not that nice. However, if you put the laptop up on a stand, you get rid of both of these things, which is the way that I normally work in my office. The quality of the camera is very obviously better on the MateBook 14 compared to this Yoga Slim 7, where the webcam is one of the really weak points in my opinion. When it comes to Windows Hello with the fingerprint and the camera, then it is a fingerprint reader for Windows Hello in the MateBook 14. There is the camera for Windows Hello in the Yoga Slim 7. And as I told you before, the Yoga Slim 7 has this pretty neat feature that when you sit down in front of it, it will wake up, it'll recognize your face, and it will log you in using Windows Hello. Let's have a listen to the speakers here at full volume. Or a new monitor for your computer setup. In today's video we are going to go through how to test your new laptop or monitor to make sure that it's a worthy panel that you can keep for many years to come. I'm W2Best, I make in-depth gear reviews and tutorials, and if you liked this video after watching it, I would be super happy if you wanted to put a like on the video and maybe also subscribe to this channel. That gives me a ton of motivation to bring out new content moving forward. That was the Yoga Slim 7, and here we have the MateBook 14 speakers. Or a new monitor for your computer setup. In today's video we are going to go through how to test your new laptop or monitor to make sure that it's a worthy panel that you can keep for many years to come. I'm W2Best, I make in-depth gear reviews and tutorials, and if you liked this video after watching it, I would be super happy if you wanted to put a like on the video. In this case, I would say regardless of the use case, regardless of if you're listening to speech like here, or to music or games, the Yoga Slim 7 is the clear winner. The front-firing speakers are much louder and much clearer than the bottom-firing speakers, and now I have them placed on a flat, hard surface, which is the ideal listening situation. If you have them in your lap, or if you have them on a softer surface, they don't sound at all as loud as they do here in this example. So for speakers, I truly recommend the Yoga Slim 7. The only speakers I have heard that perform better than the Yoga Slim 7 speakers are the ones from the MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air. They have a little bit more bass reproduction, and therefore I think they give a bit of a tighter sound compared to the Yoga Slim 7. When it comes to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity, this is actually a clear win for the Yoga Slim 7 as well. This is because this has got both Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5. And unfortunately, the MateBook 14 lacks both Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5. However, all of the trials I have done with everyday use and Wi-Fi, Bluetooth units, etc., I've never had any issue with the connectivity of any of the devices actually. I am completely fine with both the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth setup in both of the units. Let's talk upgradability. The RAM is soldered on in both of the units, and it is running in dual channel. However, in this case, the AMD Yoga Slim 7 has an LPDDR4X RAM that is running in 4266 MHz. The MateBook 14 has a DDR4 RAM that is running in 2666 MHz. So the fastest RAM is for sure in this guy. RAM speed might sound like a minor thing, but in these AMD CPUs it actually makes a bit of a difference, and especially when it comes to the built-in GPUs. So the performance of the 4500U with this faster RAM when it comes to the GPU will be a little bit better than in the 4600H. However, none of the laptops have upgradable RAM. The Yoga Slim 7 has an extra slot for a 2242 SSD, so you can upgrade it and run a second SSD together with the one that comes inside it. There is no second SSD slot in the MateBook 14, but you can upgrade the SSD that it comes delivered with. However, then you only still have one SSD to go with. Here we have the 4500U CPU in the Yoga Slim 7. And here we have the 4600H CPU in the MateBook 14. The big difference here is that this is a 45 watt chip, whereas this is a 15 watt chip. So it's a low power chip, the U series, versus the higher power H series. We have 6 cores, 6 threads in the 4500U clocked at 2.38 GHz. And we have 6 cores, 12 threads clocked at 3 GHz in the 4600H. Both laptops perform pretty well on battery power. I have now set the Yoga Slim 7 up to its max performance mode, but when I'm on battery power I can't set this guy to its max performance mode. It has to stay in the balanced mode. Now we'll run Cinebench R23 on both of the units at the same time and see which one comes out on top. During this test I will also be listening for fan noise, because I find both of these units to be pretty good when it comes to fan noise. They don't put out a lot of fan noise at daily tasks or being idle or just used a little bit. They do give out a bit of fan noise when you are stress testing them though. Right off the bat here we can definitely hear the Yoga Slim 7 picking up a lot when it comes to fan noise. Still, I can barely hear the MateBook 14, but the Yoga Slim 7 is giving off quite a bit of noise. We are now a few minutes into the stress test, and it is time to check the surface temperature of the two units. Here on the MateBook 14, on top here, we reach about 39 degrees at the warmest parts. On the WASD keys we have about 35-36 degrees the most. Then on the Yoga Slim 7, on the hottest part up here, we have about 39 to up to 40 degrees. And on the WASD keys here we have 32, 33, sometimes up to 34 degrees. None of the laptops is really that hot to the touch, which is a really good thing after 5-6 minutes of stress testing. We bring up Core Temp to have a look at the stats there, and we can see that the Yoga Slim 7 is running at 100 degrees on the CPU, and it is drawing 30 watts of power right now. This is in the extreme performance mode, which should be noted. Here we couldn't run it in any form of extreme performance mode on battery power. Here we have a temperature of 85 degrees on the CPU, and it is getting 27.8 watts of power. So it's actually getting more power to the CPU in the U version here, because it is able to turbo a lot more in this extreme performance mode. It's quite interesting to see. We are reaching the end of the test here, and we are gonna see which laptop is coming out on top. Both of the laptop has been maxing at 100 degrees Celsius on the CPU. However, the MateBook 14 has overall been running cooler in this stress test, where the Yoga Slim 7 has been at 100 degrees most of the time. This guy has been at 85 degrees most of the time. The Yoga Slim 7 4500U gets a score of 6037 points. And the MateBook 14 with the 4600H gets a score of 6,634 points. So there's not a huge difference, even though this is a 15-watt CPU, but it is able to turbo really well. The MateBook should be able to run longer sustained loads, but it is not a huge difference here. It is really pulling a similar performance. Let's plug them both in and see if there is a big difference in that case. The stress tests plugged in just finished, and we had a surface temperature in the MateBook 14 of about 45 degrees around the middle area here, and 42 degrees in the Yoga Slim 7. We had a power draw of about 30 watts as in the previous test in the Yoga Slim 7, and a power draw of about 37 watts in the MateBook 14. A max temperature of 100 degrees in both of the units, and the Yoga Slim 7 came in at a score of 5,293. The MateBook 14 came in at 6,503. So the MateBook 14 is the performer that will come out on top in stress tests, especially when you run a few after each other. So as you could see, the first test there was a less big difference between the two units, and then I ran another 10-minute test right after it, and the MateBook 14 was for sure able to sustain its performance a lot better with that second consecutive test compared to the Yoga Slim 7. When running the NovoBench benchmark, we get a score of 1,770 in the Yoga Slim 7, and we get a score of 2,472 in the MateBook 14. In the Yoga Slim 7, we have a CPU score of 1,004, a RAM score of 273, a GPU score of 379, and a disk score of 114. In the MateBook 14 we have a CPU score of 1,617, a RAM score of 258, so a bit slower there compared to the Yoga Slim 7. We have a GPU score of 347 and a disk score of 250. So in this case it is clear that the MateBook 14 performs better in the CPU part and in the disk part, whereas the Yoga Slim 7 performs better in the RAM speed part and in the GPU part. In Crystal Disk Mark, the MateBook 14 gets a read score of 3,434 and a write score of 2,716. The Yoga Slim 7 gets a read score of 3,479 and a write score of 2,177. So they are both really fast SSD, although the write speed in the one in the MateBook is a little bit better. It should be noted here that when you unplug the Yoga Slim 7, the SSD gets significantly slower. If you want to see more in-depth performance tests and use case tests, please refer to my reviews of the two different units. They are linked in the description below, and you can find a lot of videos that I have made about them before. I've used both the MateBook 14 and the Yoga Slim 7 for such a long time as my main driver, but now during the last few weeks here, I have really not forced myself to use any of the devices, but basically put them both available like this every morning, and then see which one I feel the most to pick for whatever is ahead of me during the day. 95% of the time I will pick the MateBook 14. There are very few occasions where I feel that the Yoga Slim 7 is a more competitive laptop to use. That would basically only be if I need something that requires as good speakers as possible, or maybe if I wanted to play a game or watch a video because the 16:9 aspect ratio is a bit better for those use cases. If I'm gonna do something that requires two USB-C ports or a microSD card reader, it is also obvious that I'm gonna choose the Yoga Slim 7, as the MateBook 14 won't come with two USB-C ports or a microSD card reader. If an SD card reader is crucial for your use cases, you know that the MateBook 14 is not going to be the right laptop for you. I truly enjoy using the MateBook 14, and out of these two units, this is my laptop of choice. The day has come when the Lenovo Yoga Slim 7 has to see itself beaten by another laptop, the MateBook 14 from Huawei. Of course, this is my personal opinion, and it is very much dependent on what you are using your laptop for on a daily basis. They both work really well for all different office tasks, and I really can't tell a winner in many of the different things. However, there are some things that are so crucial on a day-by-day basis. The webcam quality, for example, nowadays when so many meetings are being held online, and even though it is placed in a weird position in the MateBook 14, the camera quality is much better there. But mainly the difference, I would say, is in the screen. The screen quality of the MateBook 14 is so much better than the Yoga Slim 7. It has both that nicer 3:2 aspect ratio, it has more pixels in the screen, and it is an overall much better experience to use the Huawei MateBook 14 when it comes to the screen. I could go on and on forever about comparing these two laptops, but I'm not gonna do that. I will just say that if you have any other questions about how I view these two machines and what I have to say about them, please let me know in the comment section below, and I will be as fast as I can to answer your comments down there. I'm W2Best, I make in-depth gear reviews and tutorials, and I will see you in the next video. Have a nice day. Bye bye!